So, Kamali Thompson, a very, very warm welcome to this episode of our podcast, Heart Life Rhythm with Dr. Jem. I'm super excited to speak to you today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. I remember reading about your achievements a couple of years ago now and thinking, how did she do it all with, you've got an MBA, you've gone to business school, then medical school, doing orthopedic surgery now as a resident, which is super, as we know it, very competitive, and taking up fencing on, professional level, international level, representing the USA so many times on a huge scale. So that's, fantastic. So I'll get started with my first question, if that's okay with you.
Go
fencing.
for it.
So, sorry, there's a bit of time delay, but I'll try and match your pace as well. So my first question to you, Kamali, is fencing as a sport is... I wouldn't say a very conventional sport for people of ethnic minorities and especially women of minorities still at the moment in 2023. So I'd be quite interested to know, what was your journey? How did you get into fencing?
So fencing, I'm from New Jersey, and fencing is actually very big in New Jersey. It's so big. It's crazy because when I first started fencing in high school, we had 40 schools that fence, and now they have over 80 schools that fence, and it's public school. Like, it's not even, I didn't even go to a private school.
Amazing.
Yeah. But I was at my open house for my high school when I was in 8th grade, and I was kind of just casually walking with my mom, and we walked past a fencing demonstration that the team was giving, and she was so interested. She's like, "Oh my God, what is this? What's going on?" Started talking to my high school coach, who also a minority woman, whose daughter fenced at Princeton and ended up getting a bronze medal in the 2012 Olympics. So she convinced my mom that it would be a great idea for me to fence. And that it looked really good on my college application. I'm a minority, like, it's going to make me stand out. And my mom was like, "Oh, well, there you go. You're going to just join the fencing team, and there you have it." And then I joined the team. I hated it. I hated fencing because it was just so weird.
Really?
It looked funny. It was super. Yeah, I was just like not into it at all for the first year and a half. And then I hated losing, so I asked my coach how I can get better. And she told me I had to join a fencing club. So she recommended that I go to a club in New York City, called the Peter Westbrook Foundation, which is a fencing club pretty much for minorities. And I think that really helped because I found this community of like really amazing fencers. They're all Olympians. They're all like world medalists. And they inspired me to do better.
Amazing. And just a bit of a personal question. How does your mom feel now? What started as a journey to get you
God.
this? Did she realize you would go, that far into it? Did she?
No, I mean, not at all. My mom, at first she said, like, just do it because you need to, pick an activity. I used to be a dancer, so she was like, "You're not going to get that far in dance. At least if you fence, it'll look good on your application. We'll see how far you get." And then I joined my club, started going to national competitions, and I think that's pretty much what she expected. Just like, okay, well, great, my daughter fences nationally. My brother started fencing too at the same time I did. He's 5 years younger than me. So then we started doing the international thing, and then it was, Khalil. We started doing the international thing, and then she was like, "Okay, that's great. Now my kids fence internationally. They go to like Poland and Korea and all that." And then my brother, he made the Olympic team. I was the Olympic alternate, and she was like, "Wow, this is awesome." I did not expect this. Nobody expected that, and she's super proud, but she always says, like, "Just give me my props because it was I'm the reason that you guys got here."
Amazing. So as you said, I mean, you were chosen as an alternate for the Olympic team was it 2020 or 2021?
Yeah.
Games?
Well, it's 2021, but they call it 2020.
But yeah, and then your brother went on to represent USA at the Olympics in Tokyo. What were your emotions personally? I mean, that's such an amazing thing, not to have one person in the family, but two people at the same game at such a high level. What were your emotions? What are your fondest memory of that time, the Tokyo Olympics?
So it was really amazing because, for the Olympics, there were no spectators. So if you were not physically competing in whatever sport was happening on that day, you could not go into the venue. And if you were not competing at all, you could not go to the Olympics.
Okay.
So, we worked so hard as athletes to qualify for the Olympics, and then, you want to have your family there. So the fact that my brother and I were able to have each other was amazing because there were so many other people that had nobody. You know what I mean? Like, when you're the whole time, like, of going to the Olympics, it's super tumultuous. Your emotions are all over the place. Leading up to the Olympics, you're like, I just want people around me who are very supportive. So when you're at the Olympics, like, just to have a friendly face or, like, someone who you know is always on your side, it's, like, priceless. So my brother fenced. I couldn't watch him. I couldn't go in the venue because I wasn't fencing that day, and I was really upset about it. But in the training center, the TVs are everywhere. So we all stopped when the guys were fencing. As soon as he got on the strip, I started crying. Oh my God. I know it was so funny because everyone was holding me, but I was like crying. I was like, I can't believe we made it here. Like, it was very dramatic, but it was also like so exciting.
That's amazing. That's such a wonderful experience and very unique. I can't think of other, I mean, yes, there's Serena and Venus Williams, I guess, in the same family, but not many. So I've got a question. This is a personal question that I've always wondered in terms of, very high achievers in athletics and sports. In the final few seconds before you go onto your tournament, what goes in your mind? What do you tell yourself, or do you make your mind empty completely? And I'm asking because I've performed in front of a lot of people in terms of for dancing. So I dance a lot, but that's a bit different. It's not a competition. I enjoy it. So it's pure joy. And I love the stage. But for you, when there's so much at stake, how do you deal with that adrenaline rush? And, what is your routine to, calm the nerves down?
Oh my God, it's so funny because it doesn't matter how big you get, the nerves will always be there. It's, to your point, it's just a matter of how to manage them. But I would say, getting ready for the competition, getting on the plane, you're hyped. You're like, I've been training for this. I'm excited. I'm going to win. Like, I've been waiting for this. And then you go check in, like, so the night before you have to check your equipment, make sure it passes. So you kind of like size everybody up, and you see them in line. You're like, ooh, I got you. You beat me last time. I'm going to beat you this time. And then for me, very early on would watch videos before day one, but then I stopped doing that, and I just found like a really good hype movie. So like Remember the Titans or Creed or something like that. To really get me excited. And then and then walking into the venue, I had like my headphones on, I had my playlist, and it's funny because as I got really experienced, I didn't get nervous really until like right before I stepped on the strip. And then I would get on the strip, and then I would be like, okay, now I'm nervous. Now I'm nervous. But then it's a lot of work with, I have a mantra, so a lot of, repeating my mantra, a lot of just like hyping myself up and, saying you've done, twice a day practices for the last 3 months or 4 months, and like you deserve this, and this, you're probably nervous because last time you did this, but we've been working on not doing that mistake anymore. So you're not going to make that mistake this time. We're going to do better this time, and just kind of really reinforcing all the hard work that you've done.
It's really funny what you're saying, because I get that. So, talking to yourself, being your biggest support, because I do that a lot as well. You were speaking about mantra. Is that something special that you say, or is there anything else that you tell yourself, or any other practices that you do to, calm yourself? Or
yeah, so for me, I came up with a mantra. So I started fencing much later than the average fencer. So most fencers start around 7 or 8, and I was 12 when I started high school and 14 when I joined a club. So By the time I joined my fencing club, the other girls my age were already competing internationally. So I felt so behind for the first half of my career. So when I started fencing internationally, I just needed something to really get myself together and something that would like really boost my confidence. So I watched Amy Cuddy's TED Talk about power poses and about looking yourself in the mirror and saying something really positive. So my mantra is, you are smart, you are amazing, and you deserve to be here. And I would literally before every competition run to the bathroom, stare at myself in the mirror for like 1 or 2 minutes, and just repeat my mantra like 5 to 10 times. And then that really gave me a lot of confidence.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Who would you say is if you had to pick one biggest mentor in your life, it doesn't have to be a sports person, but it can be, who would you say that would be? Who's inspired you, inspired you not to give up and to achieve your dreams?
So my biggest mentor, I have a bunch, but my biggest one is my college coach. She is such a boss. Her name is Nikki Frank. She coached at Temple University for 50 years. She just retired last year. We kind of have the same, similar story. So she didn't start fencing until she was in college. She's from New York. Later became a 2-time Olympian. She was fencing when she was in grad school. I know, 2 times is crazy. She was fencing when she was in grad school, so that was very similar to my journey too. And the reason I respected her so much was just because, obviously, by the time I was coached by her, she wasn't fencing anymore. But she just always had this era of, hard work comes first, respect all your opponents. There's no reason to disrespect anyone. We play fair, and she has such a calm demeanor, but you could also see the fierceness in her eyes. I think that was a Brooklyner. But I just learned so much about how to be a strong and respectful, but very respected competitor.
Okay, so it wasn't teachings about sports only or competition. It was really a life teaching that she's imparted to you in those few years.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say is the one thing that you love the most about fencing, and the one very important life lesson that you've learned also about fencing that serves you in other aspects of your life?
Ooh, the thing I love most. I love the traveling. And that's a side part of fencing, but I love the traveling. And I feel like as Americans, we get trapped in our American bubble. And when you are able to just go to different countries and see how other people live. And then the other cool thing about fencing is we would be with people that were affected by things that were going on in the world. So, we have Ukrainian teammates. So we would talk to them and say oh, what's going on? How are you feeling about this? What's going on? What situations that are happening at that time, or anything in the world, because we have friends that are at those places. So you learn so much from, putting your own thoughts aside and listening to other people's stories and sharing that with them, traveling to those places with them. At a certain point, you become such close friends. They're you'll go to a training camp, you'll stay in their house with them, and you just learn so much about other cultures. And I just think that's just invaluable, especially as an American, right? Because we just are so set in our own ways. We think whatever America says is right, and it's such a unique experience. And especially as a minority woman, there just aren't that many Black women that are traveling to China, that are traveling to Venezuela, to Russia, all those places that I've been to. So it's been incredible, and I'm just so happy I got to do that. And most of those times I was with my brother too, so we did a lot of that, as a family.
Fantastic. What lovely memories to share as siblings as well. That's wonderful. Was there any particularly hard moment on that journey that you had to face, and also how do you face those hardships?
Oh my God, they're all hard. Every time you lose a competition, you come back home, you're like, what am I doing to myself? Why am I still doing this? I think, so I started competing internationally in 2012, decided to try for the 2016 Olympic team. If you're not on the national team, you're funding all of this stuff by yourself or getting sponsors or whatever. So in 2016, I just missed the Olympic team, and also took a break between med school, and I was super crushed, and I was really upset because I felt like I had wasted, time. In medicine, you go straight through. I was like, I could have been a doctor by now. I felt like I had spent so much money, and I was like, some of that came from loans, and I'm like, okay, well, all this sacrifice didn't pan out for me. So, like, what am I really doing? So it's hard. It's hard when you're not reaching your goals. You feel like you're doing something wrong. But at the same time, I feel like there's always a lesson to be learned, number one. And number two, like, every experience is there for a reason. So there's no such thing as a failure, in my opinion. It's just different things that you need to learn to move on to the next chapter of your life.
Okay. I think that's going to be really inspiring to some of our audience listening to you right now. Because it's very easy to see people at their summit, the triumph and the happy moments and the stage moments and all the light on you. But then nobody thinks about the effort behind when nobody's watching. Keep going. Even if nobody's watching, even if you don't feel like it, have a routine and keep going and motivating yourself. I think that's the biggest win, in my opinion, is the stuff that goes behind the curtains.
Yeah. Agreed.
So you've, at the time that you were competing internationally, you were also in medical school. And we all know medical school in itself is extremely challenging in terms of, your commitment, your allocation of time, how you prioritize things, and the stress that comes with it. How did you manage to balance both careers, I would say, at such high levels, so beautifully? What's your secret?
Oh my God. So looking back, I didn't sleep, which is not good, right? As doctors, we know that you need sleep. First and second year of medical school, I slept like average 4 hours a night, like average. So some nights was 3, some nights was 5. Not good. Not good. But I got really, really intense with my scheduling. So I scheduled every single hour of what needed to be done. The beginning of the week, I was like, we have to study these chapters on these days. We're going to these practices at this time. I'm not going to be able to, in medical school, you have like study small group sessions or something. So I was like, maybe I could miss that session and go to that practice. And I really took a step back at the beginning of the week and said, like, what needs to be rearranged or what can be moved to make sure everything can get done. And I think that it was like I had a personal assistant, but it was me. Like, I really made sure that every single thing was always accounted for. And then the most important thing was at the beginning of the semester or the block or whatever, I had the entire competition schedule and the entire exam schedule laid out. So I knew if I was going to have to miss an exam or something, I emailed the professor like months in advance and said, hey, can we set up a time to take this like 2 to 3 days earlier because I'm going to have a competition. And I think that when you show how meticulous and how dedicated you are, people are willing to help you. So no one ever told me no. They always said, oh yeah, sure, we'll find a way to work with you. And I think that really helped.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. I read somewhere again, you spoke about some experiences of being bullied at school earlier in your earlier days. Could you, if you don't mind, I know that's quite personal, so feel free to share whatever you would like to, because I know there's a lot of old people as well, but, young people are having a tough time at school and in their teenage years, especially in this era where things are changing so quickly, where people are having a hard time accepting other people's differences, and being a little bit different can sometimes not work in your favor at school. How did you deal with that? What was your experience of that? What would you like to tell young people watching you?
Yeah, I was bullied. It was terrible. I have a good end to the story though, but I was bullied because I was 2 years younger, so I skipped a grade and I started school early. So I was 12 when I got to high school, 8 when I got to middle school. Middle school for us is 5th grade. And I just had these girls that were so mean. They were just like always picking on me. I think the answer to like, how do I fix this is number one, don't keep it in. Like, you need to tell somebody what's going on because it starts to weigh on you after a while. Maybe it's not your parents. Maybe it's a teacher. Maybe it's like an older sibling or cousin or something like that. But like, everyone's bullied for the most part. So it's a very relatable concept. So you need to tell somebody and tell them how you're feeling, tell them what's going on, because you need someone to kind of help protect you. Like, you don't deserve to go through that alone. And number two is just like, make sure you find your group of friends. I feel like part of me being bullied was me like searching for people who I didn't need to be hanging out with. And once I found my crew of people, things got much easier for me. I had a really strong support system. I actually ended up finding other people who had skipped a grade and other people that were younger, and it was like they just understood me. We had the same issues. We were going through the same thing at the same time. We couldn't drive in high school at the same time, and that's when things just got much better. But the funny part of that story is maybe like 4 years ago, one of my bullies DM'd me on Instagram, and she told me that she saw me on the news, and I was a big inspiration to her daughter, and I was like, that's funny because you're mean to me, but it's okay. So
wow.
At the end of the day, I know. So at the end of the day, just stay true to yourself.
Sorry, I'm gobsmacked.
No, I know. I was like, wait, what? Yeah. Stay true to yourself. Stand up for yourself if you need to, but don't let them and their words change who you are.
So important. So now moving on. So you're now a resident in orthopedic surgery, which I believe the proportion of African American women in orthopedic surgery is something minute. And I can empathize with that because it's the same case in interventional cardiology still in 2023. Things are getting slowly better, but nowhere as quickly as I think we would love it to be. And I've had my share of challenges as well on the way, as have so many of my female colleagues as well at work. First of all, how are you enjoying your journey in orthopedic surgery?
It's great. I mean, ortho, I love it. I want everybody in medicine to go into ortho because you get to like work with your hands and you change someone's lives. Like right now I'm on pediatrics, so we do a lot with like club feet and like, once I got introduced to orthopedics and having that sensation of, oh, you were essentially broken until I fixed you. Like, this is pretty cool, you know? So I think it's great. I love everything about it. You know, I think when you are a minority, and I don't mean that in the sense of like ethnicity or sex, but just there are less of you than there are other people, you have to find a good group. So when I was looking for a residency, I wanted someone or a program that was going to be obviously very supportive of having women and minorities in the field. So I found a great program that does it. My hospital, we serve like 90% of African Americans. So every time I walk in a room, they're like, "Oh my God, you're my doctor," and I'm like, "Yeah."
Which hospital
Temple
is that?
Hospital. It's in Philadelphia.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, okay. Temple Hospital in Philly. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
You walk in and then they're like, "Oh my God, you look like me. We're kind of the same, from the same place. We relate," and it's great. It feels very fulfilling.
Amazing. I'm so glad you've had, your share of really good experiences in that field as well. Do you think things would have been a bit different if you were in a different community, in a hospital that served a different community? Predominantly.
I don't know, but I don't know if things would be different, like if people would treat me differently, but I personally feel like I'm giving back more to a community that needs my services. Because I feel like as an African-American doctor, the fact that there's just so few of us, when you especially are somewhere like Philadelphia where there's just like a very lower like median income, you give people a reason of hope in saying that this is something that you can actually do, right? Like we're the same. You can be a doctor like me, right? You have other options than whatever is portrayed in the media. So I don't know if the patients will treat me differently, but I know I feel like I'm reaching back to my community, and that's something that would be different if I didn't serve this population right now.
And can I ask on your team, so how many of the ortho residents are female? Are you the only one, or?
No. And so in terms of being female, there's 6 out of 20 of us.
Oh,
and that's good for orthopedics.
That's better than interventional cardiology. I'm the only female fellow right now in Canada,
no.
in my institution. That's really good. 6 out of 20.
That's very good. Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's not good for you, but we're doing
not enough, but it's fantastic. How different is the Kamali Thompson on the tournament compared to the Kamali Thompson with the stethoscope and with the broken bones, patients with broken bones?
Good question. So in general, I'm very light and airy, and when I'm on the strip, I have to get very serious, which is funny because it's hard for me to get serious, but when you're, fencing's not a game, we got business to do here. But every once in a while, I'll have a patient that really tests me, and I have to pull into that seriousness, and I'm like, hey, listen, stop that. Stop what you're doing. We have to do this. I'm sorry your femur's broken, but this is what we have to do to get you more comfortable, and this is what we're going to do. And it's funny when she comes out because it's like, oh gosh, whoa, where'd that come from?
And what are you thinking of going into pediatric orthopedics or adult orthopedics or a mixed bag, or do you know yet?
Yeah, so I will be doing sports, no surprise. And I love peds, so I can do a little bit of peds in sports, which is very exciting. But overall, I just love being around athletes. I love their athletic problems. They're like, doctor, I can't run 4 miles anymore. And I'm like, oh, I understand your struggle. So I love sports, and that's what I'm going to be doing.
Fantastic. And what can we expect from Kamali Thompson in the next few years? What's your vision? What's the next dream?
Good question. I don't know. I do know, obviously, I'm going to do sports. I'm trying to figure out, do I want to be with a specific sport? Do I want to work with multiple sports, a whole Olympic team? I don't know. But I expect myself to be working with some professional athletes in the very near future following fellowship graduation. So we'll just see who those people are, but I'm excited for it.
Do you miss fencing at, international levels? Do you miss it?
Oh, absolutely. I 100% do. I'm really excited because I'm going to the Olympics to watch as a spectator in Paris.
Is that your sibling or okay? Is your brother participating as well? Or?
Well, we have to figure the qualification cycle is this year, so he is in the running for it. I'm going regardless of whether he makes it or not. Hopefully he does make it. But that'll be my first international competition since the last time I fenced. So I'm really excited to see everyone and to just be around fencing. And hopefully everyone, we're going to put our good luck out there for my brother that he makes it.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So we've reached almost the end. I just have one question for you. Any final wise words of wisdom, that you want to share with everybody that's watching you? We've got medics, we've got non-medics, we've got young people, old people. Anything you'd like to share, in 2023 with people?
Yeah, I would just say, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that there are so many people that are going to tell you that you can't do something. And I don't know if that's because they genuinely think it can be done or they don't think they could do it themselves, but who cares? If you have an idea in your head and you are excited about it, just put pen to paper and start, and all the pieces don't have to be laid out for you. Because a lot of people like to have all their ducks lined up in a row. You don't need that. If you're excited about something, just start, open the door, get started. And if you are working really hard and you're very passionate, everything will work out for you. People will start helping you. Doors will open that you never expected. But don't let anyone tell you that something can be done, because who are they?
Wow. That's really inspiring, and I love your energy. I think people will really relate to what you've got to say. How did you find that? Was it okay? The question?
It was. You did something phenomenal, and you've done your research. You've done your research too, which is very exciting. Yeah, you were great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us, and I wish you all the very best, as well as to your brother for the Olympics soon. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Jem. Thanks for having me.